Good evening, the learned speaker, all the delegates who are attending this webinar from various countries, and the chairman of the group. Let me first of all, as the president of NISSMAT, introduce to you what is NISSMAT. This is a National Institute of Security, Safety and Applied Technology, established about 3 decades ago. The legacy of this institution is that earlier it was established for certain specialization, imparting training in the security subjects. With the passage of time, our institution started giving training in the subject of loss prevention, risk mitigation, safety security audits. With the process on, we trained certain audit teams which were responsible to conduct audits of a number of multinational countries in the world and were appreciated, lauded for their work. Subsequently, the Ministry of Defense asked NISSMAT to start some courses for the second career, that is resettlement of the retired personnel. We started courses in private security and also in certain safety subjects for these ex-defense personnel. Then we started training in the field of fire safety and security with the JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University. In the recent past, we have established a research cell, a think tank, to delve into various national and international issues of safety security and try to create some research papers for the benefit of the scholars as well as the nation at large, or the world at large. This institution now aspires to become a well-renowned global institution in the subject of safety, security, and management. Gentlemen, today's subject, as all of you know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, that today's subject is on social media, that is it a boon or is it a curse? Now, to introduce the subject, or to dwell on the subject only briefly, I'd like to say a few words. As all of us know, social media has brought the world so close that political and geographical boundaries are crumbling. Time may come when citizenship may surpass citizenship. We are now heading towards a world order as if with the social media with us. A serious problem is that when the social media assumes such a place, then there are chances of it spreading misinformation, which can severely impact the decision-making and governing process in any country. Now, digital culture, as you know, has become so widespread that whatever appears on the net or whatever appears on the social media is readily accepted. The schools, particularly I like to refer, the schools, not I am talking about the colleges, the schools also have introduced social media in a big way in other countries. Now, this is no doubt a tool for collaboration, planning, and sharing resources. Very good use. Now the question is that is it only a use? In the school, the problem arises that there's no direct communication, direct personal communication, direct physical communication between the students and the teacher. And it at times results in disrespect or even risk in getting too friendly with the teacher on the social media. Now, I like to refer to you a case where, because of the social media, having informed the youngsters a lot and exposed the youngsters a lot on sex, violence, drug, etc., were affecting the behavior pattern of these school students. Now, to see this, when some time back, this case came up in a court of justice in America, somewhere I remember, it was somewhere in 2015. And in 2015, when the court asked, I'd like to name the social media at that time who was impeached, Facebook, that how can you stop getting people into this media if you want to stop? At that time, in 2015, Facebook told the judge that we have so far at that time, we have no way as to how to stop the people entry into this network. Then I like to quote, the judge said, okay, which means you have created a monster. You have created a monster. Now the monster needs taming. It needs to be controlled. In the process, I like to tell you that at that point of time or a little later, it was established, it was assessed, it was researched, it was found that more than 3 billion users are, now it may be much more, 3 billion users were there who were using Facebook. About 3 million users were using Twitter, and more than 6 million were using on the LinkedIn. So you imagine the impact of the social media on the minds of the younger people, as well as I'll come to do the elder people also. Now, in time of recently, we have said that some places it has impacted the democratic processes in the country. There were certain references to certain medias who deflected, who deflated, or who impacted the democracy or democratic way of, because they impacted the people, the voters, etc., with the result that indirectly impacted the democratic process in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the sources and the news nowadays, particularly I refer to during the pandemic days, during the COVID days, is of course, some say it's good, some say it's bad. Information, yes, we must get information as far as the pandemic is concerned. But hype, as well as creating a fear in the mind of the people who are listening to news, can be very, very dangerous for the psychology of the people. Healing dose, yes. Healing dose, yes. If healing dose is created by social media to meet with this impact, very good. Take it. Let it be preventive measure, let us take it. But we must know that whether this is only a healing dose or it is giving much more impact to the psychology of the people. I read a few days back, and some of the speakers will bear me out. A Bombay-based psychologist has recently said that in a way it is good, in a way it is bad. He says, she says, this is Sonali, she says, a wave in the human brain of flight, fear, fight, and freezing has set in. Imagine, flight, fight, fear, and freezing has started in the brainwave. Now, to what extent we are able to control it out of this is a subject matter of discussion. Some of the people have already referred to legal, political reasons also, and they said that there is a need of introducing certain laws, although there are laws, but laws which should police this social media. Now, policing social media is all right, but the question is, will you be able to curb the expression, freedom of expression? That does not come under the Constitution. You have to allow the freedom of expression. So under these circumstances, the policing may come, but there are a lot of nuances, there are a lot of nuances, there are a lot of delicacies. You have to keep within the basic framework of the Constitution. How to create this curve, our learned speaker will talk whether there are and there's a possibility of curbing them further. But at the same time, we must realize that the policing which is required on the social media is more in terms of social policing, in terms of public policing. The media itself, the media fraternity itself should think as to how to keep them within the bounds of ethics and not explode misinformation in the minds of the people. On the other hand, the public at large has also to take some steps towards policing. If they find that this particular channel or this particular social media is more based on information, they should not listen to that so that the TRP, etc. reduce. My submission is that policing at this juncture is only possible either in terms of social policing or in terms of your own fraternity policing. With the passage of time, you may be able to have laws and have the police. So there are uses and misuses, a boon and curse of the social media. I leave it to the learned speaker to deliberate in the subject and give us their dispassionate view as to how we should think this particular monster or this particular monk. Whether it is social media as a monster or a monk, we have to think in terms of what they tell us in due course of time. Meanwhile, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce the chairman and managing director of NISSMAT, Mr. Pawanjit Ahluwalia. He's a very, as you all know, he's a very, very dynamic entrepreneur who, after voluntary retirement, started his own business enterprises. And today, under his belt, there are scores of companies of which he is the CMD. He is also the CMD of NISSMAT. He is an awardee, various awards, national and international, both from the outside organization like CII and also organization within India like APDI, CAPC, etc. I'll call upon Mr. Pawanjit Ahluwalia ji to moderate this session and introduce the speaker. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words. Ladies and gentlemen, first, before I begin, I would like to thank the participants of the following countries who are with us today. That's India, Singapore, UAE, USA, UK, Bangladesh, Bhutan, Canada, France, Ghana, Ireland, Kuwait, and Vietnam. I thank you all for your participation. And as I speak, we are live on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. A word about our illustrious president. Mr. Sipal Singh is a former Inspector General of Police. He was IG Police Punjab. He was the first chief of the Rapid Action Force, a force which was set up to deal with communal violence in India. He also founded and headed the Internal Security Academy, which he founded at Mount Abu to train senior administrators, police officers, and higher echelons of the public sector undertakings. Due to his demonstrated ability to quell terrorism in Punjab and insurgency in Northeast India, his services have been recognized by the President of India on several occasions. Post-retirement, he has been conferred with many honors by the President of India, the Union Home Minister, the Governor of Punjab, and several professional organizations. He is the Honorary Director General of the Central Association of Private Security Industry and the Indian Private Detectives Association. With his vast abilities that he has, he now leads NISSMAT to greater heights. The first speaker of the day is Mr. Manoj Bajaj. It is so difficult to introduce people who are such high achievers as Mr. Manoj Bajaj, but I will try and sort of give you a little brief on his achievements so that you understand as to why he's called a marketing guru in the digital marketing space. He is master in the art of exploiting social media for business. He's a business growth strategist, an online marketing consultant. He's an author, speaker, and a digital marketing coach. He's an exceptional human being whose motto has been to help businesses grow. He has turned around many loss-making enterprises to profit by using the power of social media. He has 23 years plus experience in this area. He has till date helped over 4,500 businesses grow their profit margin from anywhere between 17 to 2,000%. He has authored 26 books, sold 4.5 million copies in 13 countries and in 2 languages. He is the founder partner of Greybox Technologies, which is a niche digital marketing enterprise. The client list is most impressive and includes some of the who's who in the Indian context and the world context. Above all, he's humble, he's hugely intelligent, most helpful, and a very respected person. And all that I know about marketing today is because of this gentleman on the screen today. Thank you very much, Mr. Manoj Bajaj, and welcome as a panelist to our discussions.
Thanks for the kind words, Mr. Pavanjit. Thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. Sipal Singh. And it is glad and honored to be, I'm really glad and honored to be here in the part of these learned people and high achievers. So can I have the rights to be able to share my screen? Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can.
All right. Thank you. And as Mr. Sipal Singh have already introduced, that we are going to talk about social media, boon or curse. And as I have been introduced by Mr. Pavanjit Singh Ahluwalia, I am CEO of this company called Greybox Technologies. And if some of you would like to connect with me, they can do so on LinkedIn. So I'm going to skip this part, which has already been taken care of, Mr. Ahluwalia. So what am I going to cover today? I'm going to cover social media in two different contexts. Most of the things have already been elaborated briefly by Mr. Singh. I'm going to put some light on things on disadvantages as well as advantages in the context of larger perspective. I'm going to talk about a little bit on individual perspective, but my focus is going to be on the larger perspective. Now, if we talk about social media disadvantages on individual level, it is going to have, or it has already started showing problems in the context of cyberbullying, trolling, and even sexting. Apart from that, as far as individuals are concerned, people feel that it is a huge distraction. It's the greatest distraction tool that has ever been developed by the technology. Privacy and safety, I'm going to share some numbers on that. Then I'm going to talk about Trump and Putin controversy that has briefly been discussed about US presidential elections by Mr. Singh. And I've got some numbers during my research, and I'm going to share those numbers, how agencies have used resources to be able to impact the psychographic profile of the people who were expected to vote, how they were polarized, and how social media was adding fuel to the fire. Then I'm going to talk very briefly about identity theft and fraud. Identity theft is relatively new to India, but it has already shown its problems and impact on US, where the technology of social media was available earlier than India. Now, to share some statistics about cyberbullying, trolling, and sexting, teenagers, when surveyed, they shared that 25% of teenagers reported that they have experienced repetitive bullying. And how they have been bullied, they have been bullied over cell phones or on internet. Embarrassing, damaging photographs taken without the knowledge or consent of the subject has been reported by 11% of adolescents and teens. And with the easy availability of online tools as well as offline tools like Photoshop, teenagers have shared that their bodies or their faces have been morphed with other characters, and they have been bullied. Often, when these kinds of incidents happen, both bullies and the people who are being bullied resort to victimize their targets and turn into hate speeches, okay, which is going to create a lot of negative impact emotionally. Now, Victims of cyberbullying are more likely to suffer with low esteem. They start lacking self-confidence, and there are some emotional problems which can stay there for a very, very long time and sometimes forever. uh, Sometimes people say that these are the boys who may be the big bullies, but the research has shown that girls are at least as likely as boys to be either be cyber bullies or to be targeted as cyberbullying victims. So there is no gender bias as such. The research shows that it can be girls as well as boys who can be bullied, and it can be girls as well as boys who can be bullies. Okay, after the research was carried out. Now, the big problem with this is parents who are of relatively older age have not had that kind of exposure on social media. As a result, they do not properly understand the scope and intensity that may be involved with cyberbullying. Okay. Now, social media, as a result of this, bullying and other aspects have also created a big problem called suicide. Okay. Now, I'm going to talk about two specific cases immediately after this slide. Now, social media and suicide have been related. It's relatively a new phenomena that concerns social media's influence on social related behavior and suicide related behavior. According to WHO, World Health Organization, suicide has been identified not only as an individual phenomena, but also as being influenced by social and environmental factors. Now, the problem is if a specific a teenager or boy or girl is being bullied, other people who are not bullies, they're just watching, they're just viewing, and sometimes they're liking what bullies are saying. Okay, now this basically creates very huge discomfort, as well as this also creates a helpless situation for the person or the child who is being bullied. Now, it can be a different age group, it can be a smaller age group, teenagers as well as elders can be bullied. Anybody can be bullied. Okay, now there is an increasing evidence that the internet and social media has already started influencing suicidal related behaviors, and suicide is a leading cause of death worldwide, and approximately 1.54 million people die just because of suicide in year 2020. Now, I would like to discuss two cases over here. A case of Phoebe Prince. Now, this was a girl, as you can see, the image or the photograph of the girl. In one of the widely known cases, this person actually committed suicide. Now, her suicide was directly related to the consequence of relentless bullying and cyberbullying. It was both physical, in-person bullying, as well as, or rather, offline bullying, as well as cyberbullying. Now, bullying, be it on social media or even if it is a physical thing, is a huge problem and significantly increases the risk of suicidal behavior in victims. And this girl actually laid down her life because of that. Now, there is another case of Ocean Ebem. I hope I am not butchering the word and her name. So, this was an 18 years old woman from France. Now, she was so perturbed by the behavior of her boyfriend. He was bullying her, physically abusing her, as well as verbally. She was so fed up that she actually shared her emotions on this live video streaming service called Periscope. Now, in this stream, she talked about how she had been physically and sexually abused by her boyfriend. Now, viewers, I have no understanding how viewers can go with this kind of a behavior. Viewers watching this live stream had no emotional connect with that person. They even started bullying her while she was sharing her problem. And instead of trying to help her, they started saying incredibly mean things and hurtful things. Not being able to handle, she actually live streamed her suicide, and thousands of people actually watched it live on Periscope. Now, this was really, really heartbreaking. Now, people who should have helped her, instead of that, they were liking what was being thrown at her. My mind fails to understand how this could happen in a so-called civilized society that we are living right now. Then we go on and talk about distraction. Social media is a huge distraction. There was a study conducted amongst school students, and they talk about, or generally, if I have to talk about, a lot of people say that whenever my cell phone is out with me, it makes me feel like nothing else is going on around me, and I'm completely engrossed in my WhatsApps, probably Facebooks, probably LinkedIn's, probably Twitters, or maybe some other social media apps, and I have no clue what is going on around me. And I believe some of you would be able to have a similar kind of experience, or would have had similar kind of experience either with yourself or your loved ones, or maybe your peers and friends. Now, what has been happening, there has been a lot of research and surveys that have been happening. This research revealed what is known as more than half. Now, what is more than half? The research revealed, by when this research was conducted on these school students, 57%, more than half, said that social media is a huge distraction when they are doing their homework. Okay. Same ways, 54%, again, more than half, admitted that they sometimes ignored the people they were with to pay attention to social media, what is going on social media, whether it is Facebook, whether it is Twitter, whether it is WhatsApp, whether it is any other social media app. They were more busy and engrossed with the social media app rather than the people they were surrounded with. Now, they could have been surrounded with their friends, they could have been surrounded with their loved ones, they could have been surrounded with their family, and that's what happens when you are using a cell phone with your people, family, and loved ones and friends around. And it was also reported that 29% people said that whenever they are sleeping, they got woken up. Sometimes they are sleeping and they got woken up by the tings and pings of the text messages and other notifications that sent notifications when somebody posted a message for them, or tagged them, or sent them a DM. DM means direct message. Now, let us talk about privacy and safety. Now, privacy and safety is a huge concern. Now, there has been another research that has been published in this journal called Nature Human Behavior. Now, in this research, the researchers team analyzed 30.8 million, almost 31 million tweets or Twitter messages. They were tweeted by 13,900, almost 14,000 Twitter accounts. Now, during this research, the researchers divided the entire tweet pool as well as Twitter accounts into 927 ego networks. Ego networks stands for that there were some specific common types of discussions that were going on. Out of those nearly 14,000, and to be precise, 13,905 accounts, they divided it into 927 ego networks. Now, to be able to carry out this research further, they identified one Twitter account, and this one Twitter account was very closely engrossed in interactions with 15 other Twitter accounts. Now, the research moved ahead, and they thought, somebody suggested, can we predict the behavior of the people of this one person which is interacting continuously with those 15 accounts? Now they started using the power of technology, using machine learning and other stuff. They studied some results. Now, it turned out that they did not need even 15 accounts to be able to figure psychographic profile or interests of that one person's profile. They actually found that only 8 to 9 accounts were required, so-called friends and connections. They were required to be able to predict the behavior, interests, inclinations, political inclinations, and other social causes and other stuff, okay, was identified by using only 8 to 9 accounts that this particular account was connected. Now, they could start to create some startling, they started creating some startling accurate profiles, and machine learning algorithms were able to predict factors such as political affiliations, leisure interests, simply by studying what was happening between those 15 or 16 friendly accounts. Now, what is happening when somebody tweets, someone replies, somebody clicks the heart button or likes that tweet, somebody comments on that, somebody shares on that. So these are the typical kind of interactions that are taking place on internet, on almost all social media accounts. Now, they were able to predict this person's behavior up to an accuracy of approximately 95%, which I believe all of you would agree this is hugely accurate. Okay. Now, when the research proved that this kind of thing is possible, I would like to take this conversation ahead and let you guys know that there is no such thing as privacy on social media. Even your friends, knowingly or unknowingly, put you at risk on social networks, even if you have revealed some information from your account, from your profile, even if you have not revealed the information, your photographs, your images, other stuff for the rest of the world, it is very private to you. There are a lot of information that is revealed by your friends. They may post some pictures, they may tag you, they may say happy birthday to you, they may say a lot of messages. Because of those technologies that are available today, you can predict a whole lot of information, personalized information, behavioral information, psychographic profiling of those people by using the power. Now, this leads to another factor, that how people actually exploit this behavior and indulge into other forms of social media activities that are happening on a very, very large scale. And it involves politics, fake news, and information wars. Now, as I just shared, that psychographic profiles can be created, and very, very accurately at that. I have also seen this, and I believe all of you, or a lot of you, would have heard about this Cambridge Analytica scandal that happened in around 2016. And that company was used in order to impact the presidential elections of uh, uh, 2016, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Now, controversies, theories also talk about that Russia was involved. Now, there was a lot of research that was carried out. A lot of organizations in US investigated, including FBI and other organizations. They put up some data. During my research, found a website, and I have marked the resource as at the bottom of my slide. If somebody wants to know more about that, this is the resource you can actually take a look at. Now, that resource reveals that in this election, two social media platforms were exploited to the largest extent. One was Facebook, the other was Twitter. Now, just to share some data with you, IRA, which is Internet Research Association in Russia, this is associated with Russia, they actually were found to have created 3,500 advertisements, and they were released. And 11.4 million Americans were exposed to those adverts, and 470 Facebook pages were created by IRA Russia. Okay, now 80,000 pieces of organic content was created and posted on those pages, and this organic content was exposed to over 126 million Americans. Now, if I understand correctly, the population of America is about 360, 370 million. So you can see almost about 1/3 of the population was exposed to this propaganda by IRA. Now, if we talk about Twitter, Twitter also were research and agencies in USA identified that 36,000 bot accounts were created by those Russians, and these bot accounts were tweeting about US elections. Now, since they were talking in favor of Donald Trump, and they were talking absolutely negatives, all the negative things, they were trolling Hillary Clinton's, they were trying to assassinate her character, they were trying to make sure that people who were already in love with Donald Trump, who favored him, were exposed more on the context of content on Facebook and Twitter, which was favorable for Donald Trump. And then there were some people, and millions of them, a very large number of that, at that, they were on the verge, they were on the sitting on the fence, they were neither here nor there. So they started exposing these people. How are they able to understand that these people are Trump lovers, these people are on the verge, and these people are Trump haters? As I mentioned in the previous screen, on the previous slide, that the technology is capable of identifying the psychographic profiles, in which you can actually figure out the political affiliations and political, you can say, inclinations. Now, by using the power of machine learning and the technology that is available today, they were able to actually impact the emotional connects as well as physical responses. Now, 288 million impressions of Russian bot tweets were recorded later on during the investigation, and 130,000 tweets by these accounts were linked and recorded. Now, this was a huge propaganda. And if some of you have noticed today's news, Even Z News was explaining about this propaganda that has happened in the case of Sushant Singh Rajput, and how some political factions actually targeted Mumbai or Mumbai government. Now, I am politically not biased, but this is what the story that was covered. This is the story that was covered today on Z News. Probably you can check the story out in tonight's DNA as well. Now, he was talking about how thousands upon thousands of accounts were created, and how those thousands of tweets were retweeted in favor of XYZ people and in against some other XYZ people, and how they were trying to you can say assassinate somebody's work. They were trying to prove that how they were wrongly, and they were intimidating. They were sending intimidating messages, and a whole lot of propaganda was being thrown around. Now, let us talk briefly about identity theft and fraud as well. Now, all of us actually post a lot of stuff on social media accounts that we use. For example, if you go and check any one of your friends' account on Facebook, okay, you would be easily revealed. You would be able to see the age of the person, date of the person, amongst, I did not mention the name, full name, first name, last name, and sometimes middle name as well. Okay, date of birth, even the photos, okay, of this person with their friends, with their family members. And this also reveals their family members and friends, where they are located currently, their current location, place of work, residential location, and interests, and other stuff like hobbies and friends and family members, etc. Now, what is shocking, there are tools available to be able to mine this information. Okay, and if you can spend some money, you can use some really, really powerful computers. I mean, you don't need all that powerful computers nowadays, because most of the computers that we're using are powerful enough. But there are some even more powerful systems and computers available, software and technologies available, that can actually data mine all of this data. And guess what? Even more shocking news is that all the private information pieces are available, of about more than 1 million social media accounts on dark web, on as low as $5. So you can go out there on dark web. I do not recommend you to do that, because there are a lot of malpractices happening. You can be robbed, you can be defrauded as well. Now, the context is, but if somebody knows how to fetch that, and if somebody has an expertise or somebody has access to dark web, okay, you can go there and buy private information of how many people, over 1 million people, in as low as $5. Okay, so if you guys are from India, you can understand, in about 400 rupees, 500 rupees max, okay, you would be able to fetch information, get information, private information of about 10 lakh people from social media. Okay, hugely discomforting information. So I am really, really worried. I am also letting you know that there is no such thing as privacy on social media. And if you want to protect your privacy, if you're really worried, if you sometime get worried about you, about your loved ones, about your family members, the only way to protect your privacy is delete your social media account. There is no other way. There is just simply no other way. Now, that was about the larger aspects of the social media. I covered a bit about personalized or individual impacts, and I also covered about how social media can be used in the context of impacting hundreds of millions of lives, and hundreds of millions people's decisions can be impacted based on this Cambridge Analytica and US presidential elections that were held in 2016. Now, I'm going to talk a bit on the business side of it. Now, there are a lot of advantages for business using the power of social media. Business can grow very, very rapidly. Now, as with any technology, economy is always going to be the backbone of every technology ecosystem that scales up, because you need money to be able, you need funds, you need money, and a large, you can say, volume of it to be able to scale up. And the kind of social media we're talking about have presence in more than 200 countries, have millions upon millions of users, and some social media platforms have billions of users. The top 2 or 3 social media platforms have billions of users, so they need to be funded. And how are they going to get funds? If they can make this information available for businesses to exploit, so that businesses would be able to fund them. Okay, this is all legitimate. I'm not actually making it sound like a controversy. It is all the information which is available. Now, let us take a look at how a business can get benefited because of social media. Now, earlier, the whole media, the whole, you can say, public exposure was in the hand of a few companies, large companies, few celebrities. Now, it has brought in the level playing field. Okay. Now, for example, earlier, a few large business media used to control all the media, or business corporate companies or businesses used to control all the streaming media. Okay, but this is not the case any longer. A business can, small businesses and individuals are in as much control as the power of social media can go. As I shared, you can start your channel on YouTube. You can start your Facebook page. All of these things are free, and you can start connecting with, starting with hundreds of people. Then you can go on expanding, and there are lots and lots of tools, techniques, and strategies available to be able to scale your presence in a very, very brief period of time, very brief period of time. And as far as business is concerned, a business can start marketing themselves on as low a budget of 100 rupees per day. Okay, this is not at all expensive in today's context. Now, businesses of any size, whether it is a small startup of a single person or 2 or 3 people, or it can be as large as a Fortune 50 company, can use the power of social media to be able to generate leads, sales for their business. Now, this business can be generated either locally, if you're a small business, or a hyper-local business, or a local business. Now, when I say local business, I'm talking about within the radius of about 5, 10, 15 kilometers area, that you cannot get business beyond that range and you cannot serve. Okay. Now, it can be nationwide business growth opportunity, business growth opportunity. It can be nationwide business growth opportunity. And at the same time, you can use the power of internet and social media and start growing your business internationally. Now, just to add
2 minutes.
one point to it. Sorry?
Another 2 minutes, please.
I didn't understand what you say.
Another 2 minutes.
Okay, got it. Now, what can businesses achieve using social media? They can increase their brand awareness. They can build relationships with their buyers. They can gain valuable customer data. At the same time, they can get more traffic for their websites, increase customers' loyalty, improve customer service, and cheaper and targeted advertisements can be done. Now, how is that possible? I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to show you the stats before I close my talk. Facebook has got 2.7 billion, 270 crore people, and monthly active users worldwide. And if we talk about India, there are about 34 crore users, or 340 million users in India. You can grow, you can get as much attention as masses, and you can go to 35 crore people, 34 crore people, or 340 million people in India, and you can go as wide as 2.7 billion or 200, more than 200 crore people worldwide. Or you can get laser focused. You can use some strategies like custom audience and lookalike audience by using the power of Facebook, and you can start developing your business, growing your business by generating leads and sales. Now, whether it is B2C business or it B2B business, it just doesn't matter at the end of the day. Let us talk about some YouTube stats. Over 2 billion users worldwide. And if we talk about Indian statistics, 308 million people in India use YouTube. YouTube is the new TV. Only 9% small businesses are on YouTube. So that reflects that there's a huge scope of business expansion without much competition currently. So businesses can take definite advantage of YouTube. And lastly, I would like to talk about LinkedIn, one of my favorite social networks, a network which I'm most active on. Okay. Now, it is a professional network. All the professionals are there on this network, and there are about 675 million from across 200 countries worldwide. And 67 million, I think there is an error. Instead of 670, there are 67 million people from India, professionals from India are on LinkedIn. Now, this LinkedIn pool of people consists of 90 million senior level influencers, 63 million decision makers, as well as 41% millionaires use LinkedIn. Every B2B business owner must use the social media power to be able to grow his or her business. And LinkedIn provides the opportunity like never before to be able to expand your business locally, domestic, nationally, or internationally across 200 countries. So that was the context which I had planned to share with you. Thank you so much. Thanks for giving me the time and giving me the opportunity to be able to speak to amazing people like you.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you very much. And now the second panelist of the day, Pawan Dugal. Pawan Dugal is an acknowledged cyber lawyer. He is rated to be in the top 4 cyber lawyers of the world. In the World Domain Day, he was acknowledged as one of the 10 best lawyers of the world in cyber. He is the founder of the International Commission on Cyber Law. He's a pioneer on cyber law, cybersecurity law, and mobile law. He heads Artificial Intelligence Law Hub and the Blockchain Law Epicenter. He is a consultant to UNCTAD and the UNESCAP on cyber law and cyber crime. He is a member on the board of experts of the European Commission E-Commerce Committee. He is the president of Cyber Law Asia. He conducted a 2-day training and sensitization program last year for the elected judges of the International Court of Justice. He is a thought leader and he has made several recommendations to the government of India on cyber law, cyber security, and he's promoting actively a legislation on cyber security. He's a member of the advisory committee on e-governance for the state of Karnataka in India. He owns a niche law firm in cyber law, BPO law, intellectual property rights, information technology, and information security. He is an author. He has authored over 120 books and has conducted 21 courses at the Cyber Law University, which is subscribed to by over 17,000 students in 165 countries. This gentleman is Mr. Pawan Dugal, Dr. Pawan Dugal. May I present and ask him to now give his comments on social media, a boon or a curse. Pawan Dugal.
Thank you, Mr. Ahluwalia, Mr. Singh, the distinguished panel, Mr. Manoj, ladies and gentlemen. COVID-19 times are pretty difficult times. More so, when you happen to be a doctor, you are invariably facing a lot of flack. But a doctor in Kerala had to pay this with his own life. He treated a child which was having a rare disease, and unfortunately, due to complications, the child died. But then began a huge social media campaign targeted at the doctor. The campaign was so vicious that the doctor, who was highly qualified, highly educated, was virtually driven to and actually committed suicide. The medical fraternity is up in arms in Kerala on this. How come social media becomes the governing force in our lives? That's the question I'm not asking. That's the question the Mumbai High Court has asked in the matters pertaining to Sushant Singh Rajput trial. In fact, a pertinent question that's being asked for is how come media channels and social media determine or guide or supervise the work of investigating agencies? Clearly, social media is far more powerful today than what it was a decade back. Today, the cumulative noise and the voice of social media has reached such decibel limits that no sane person would want to just ignore it. Consequently, social media has got its immense benefits, but also huge volume of nuisance elements as well. Let's look at the positive aspects. Mr. Manoj talked about these variety of aspects. Wonderful platform to communicate, good to give expression to your thought processes, good to reconnect with your old friends, instantaneous expression of your thoughts. Actually, social media has transformed our lives. We've all become global authors, global transmitters, and global broadcasters today. So, in a scenario like this, we quickly start realizing that social media puts immense power in our hands. This power often goes to dizzy heights and often tends to make people forget the distinction between the real world and the virtual world. Actually, even the inventor of the internet, Bob Kahn and Sir Windsurf, never really thought that their invention could potentially become the basis for the development of social media, which could have such a humongous impact upon the minds, the thought processes, and the psyches of people in the 21st century. But that's now the new ground reality. Yes, a lot of professionals are making some fantastic use of social media. Yes, social media is being done for social good, public order, public good, for dealing with public health emergencies, for dealing with otherwise health-related or weather-related emergencies, for dissemination of knowledge, awareness, information, and the like. The power to be instantaneously connected to a global blackboard and the power to disseminate your thought process in an instantaneous second has been a very massive power. But never before did so many people around the world think of and perceive of that such power, which initially was in the hands of a select few, could actually percolate down to just about any person who just has a connection to the internet and a device or a laptop or a mobile. No wonder this power has been used for constructive purposes. Governments have been massively using social media for dissemination of electronic governance services, for communication to their constituents as to what have been changes in the policies of the government, and even for warning people from becoming victims of cyber crimes and other undesirable scams. However, when you look at the positive sides of social media and you compare the same with the negative sides of social media, you quickly start realizing it's a lopsided game all the way. The negatives far more go ahead and supersede the positives. And why is this? The reason for this is very simple. Today, a number of social media platforms allow you the ability to potentially anonymize yourself, the ability to use newly emerging technologies like virtual private networks and anonymizers to wipe behind your electronic footprints. Some social media platforms use end-to-end encryption, but there are platforms like WhatsApp which tend to propagate a lot more than what they actually do. With the result, often people have a very distorted image about safety, security, and privacy on social media. For example, if you are using WhatsApp, which is a social media platform, I'm pretty confident that 9.5 out of 10 people do not read or have not read the terms and conditions of WhatsApp. Because if you read the terms and conditions of WhatsApp, you will quickly realize maybe WhatsApp is not the platform for you. And the reason is very simple. WhatsApp terms and conditions tell us that whatever you publish on WhatsApp, audio, video, image, text, it's all public information. You have no privacy on the same. Yes, they tell you that they have done end-to-end encryption. But what they don't tell you is that there is no encryption prior to sending the message, and there is no encryption post the receipt of the message on your WhatsApp device. And that, since your data is on your mobile phone, hacking a mobile phone is a child's play. Therefore, hacking access unauthorizedly to your WhatsApp data is now the de facto norm. Let me ask you that question. How come so many of these WhatsApp screenshots of WhatsApp chats have been emerging in a number of cases which have been coming up for public scrutiny or for media trial in the country? Now, these leakages are happening from a variety of ways. Some leakages happen through law enforcement agencies because the officials would want to let the media know. For a lot of others, it's the mobile phones whose forensic analysis gets all these information. And for some cases, A lot of vested interests deliberately keep screenshots as a matter of collateral security, so that in the event they are going to get caught or going to face rough weather in their illegal ventures, they are going to pull other people down along with them by releasing such kinds of screenshots. But I want to take you to a bigger platform. Today, social media is no longer just about communication. Social media has become the world's most fertile platform for cybercrime. Actually, cybercriminals are very intelligent. They tend to see trends and adapt their thought processes much early in the times. So once they started realizing that the majority of people were going to social media, they changed gears and then they increasingly focused on social media. So with the result, now social media is not just infested with cyber criminals. Social media is a favorite hunting ground of cyber criminals. And social media becomes a method for perpetuation of cyber crimes by cyber criminals all over the world. And given the various anonymizing technologies that are available, it is increasingly getting more and more difficult for law enforcement agencies to catch them. Let me give you an example. In the lockdown period in India, when everybody was extremely scared, the pedophilic activity on social media in India massively increased because all children were at home. They were all on social media. And little did they realize that the friends that they were actually befriending, whether they were real friends or whether they were pedophiles who were guised as friends. So pedophilic activity has grown massively. And there is massive demand for such kind of content on certain specialized social media platforms. That's the reason why this activity is growing. Also, now we are beginning to see a new trend of a marriage between social media and the darknet. Social media is now increasingly being sought to be the favorite hunting ground for cyber crimes through cyber criminals who are increasingly now operating out of the darknet. Because darknet as a paradigm is that deep underbelly of the internet that promises you one complete freedom, the freedom to remain anonymous. Because as of today, there are no technologies or solutions available through means of which law enforcement agencies can actually pierce through the anonymity veil that the darknet actually provides. And consequently, attribution of cybercrimes has been a huge problem from the darknet. On top of it, we have now begun to start seeing massive increase of cybersecurity breaches, both from the darknet onto social media, also from social media onto the superficial net, and also from the outside superficial net onto social media. So it's a constant mismatch of permutations and combinations that's staring us on our faces. We all are so familiar with the good mornings, the good afternoons, the good evenings, and the good night messages that we either receive or we send. Now, since most of us are very lazy, we don't have the time, nor the patience, nor the inclination to go ahead and draft those messages ourselves. So what do? We take these messages which come to us, just change some things up and down, and send it beyond. When we actually do that, we never realize that we are becoming pawns in the hands of cyber criminals. Because on social media, these kinds of good morning or good evening messages have actually become a great, wonderful vehicle for dissemination of malicious codes. There's a cottage industry in China which is generating these messages on a constant basis and which is being fed into social media. So when you actually copy somebody's good morning message and send it to your friends or your groups, I'm sure 9.5 or even 9.9 out of 10 people would never even test the good morning message to find out whether it's safe or whether it's got some malicious trends. Today, invariably now, the tendency of the cyber criminals is that they tend to lace up these good mornings and good evening messages with malicious codes, with phishing codes, so that once you send it to your peer group, everybody is exposed. Now, these malicious codes could do a variety of activities depending on the manner how they are written. the phishing codes could be activated remotely and could go ahead and steal the confidential information, the credit card details, the debit card details, and other financial information on the mobile phone. So I think when the thought process is said that if you want privacy, be off social media, that's a absolutely universal ground reality. But you will argue that, sorry, in today's world, I cannot live without social media. It's like opium, and I require opium for appropriate stimulation. Well, if that be the case, then the next best option for you is to be extremely cautious like a hawk, to have a very keen sight and try as far as possible to try to protect yourself. Unfortunately, world over, this generation has a unique tendency and it's undergoing a unique revolution. That revolution is we are seeing across the world and specifically in India. I call it the Great Vomiting Revolution. Everybody in this generation is vomiting information on social media, personal, professional, social, any other information. On top of it, please realize a new thought process. More and more nations and societies are becoming recording societies and nations. Take the case of India. In India, everybody has begun to start recording everybody else. Now, till such time you're recording others, that's okay. But when you start recording your own self, your own private, intimate moments, your nude, erotic moments, for either purposes of enjoying yourself or for the purposes of disseminating to a close group of friends, then I think you've actually begun playing with fire. Because even when you shoot such incriminating evidence and you put it on your mobile phone and your mobile tends to get compromised, lo and behold, the first place where your erotic or obscene content is going to be made available will be pornographic websites. A recent case came to me where this young couple had, during lockdown, got married. So once things started getting relaxed, they went on to Goa for a honeymoon and they were back. Now at Goa, they recorded every moment of their honeymoon nights on camera, both of them on their own specific devices. Now, with less than a month into the marriage, both of them have returned. There are massive disputes, and now both of them have filed criminal charges against each other. That the other person has captured images of the private part of that particular person, that spouse, without his or her knowledge or consent, and that tantamounts to offenses under the information technology law. So imagine the scenario. What's the necessity of recording if you don't know whether your recording is going to be safe? So that's why, the old dictum and the old wisdom assumes far more significance. Never record anything about yourself which could be incriminating. But the social media is not about that. Social media is vomit today, think tomorrow. And go ahead and analyze the ramifications of your acts day after. Now, if that's the mindset that people have begun to start living in, I'm sure litigation is going to hit anyone or everyone. So no wonder already during COVID-19, by the time COVID-19 is coming to a close, I'm already seeing a huge volume of litigation that's going to come up. But that litigation is thanks to COVID because of corporations not being able to comply with their contractual obligations. But apart from that, individuals are increasingly going to be sucked into some kind of a litigation or criminal exposure due to either their unauthorized activities or the hacking of their content on their devices and their subsequent landing them up on pornographic websites or defamatory platforms or the like. Today, social media is a fantastic place to demolish anyone's reputation. And how much does it take? Just an internet connection, just a mobile phone or a laptop, and ultimately just a potent mind with a criminal intention to go ahead and defame someone. Who's going to check you? Who is even going to find out the authenticity or veracity of your social media account? Most of the accounts that are put up on social media are fake, are deliberately kept fake so that these could be used for both covert and overt activities, so that ultimately the tracking and tracing back to the original culprit becomes more and more difficult. In a scenario like this, I believe that the world now needs to think differently. Social media
has become the #1 havoc for peoples and their lives. Recently, just someone tweeted the other day in the US that she's about to lose a job, and she's a very high-ranking official in her company. Because of COVID-19, she's about to lose a job. And lo and behold, that one particular posting was taken out of context and was laced with falsity, and a lot of propaganda was targeted at the girl, so much so that before she could be thrown out of the job, she voluntarily herself quit the job because of seeing so much of flack on social media that was targeted against her. Further now, most of the people don't understand one fundamental truth about the internet. Internet as a paradigm never sleeps. Internet as a phenomenon never forgets. Whatever you publish on the internet is going to be there for a long, long period of time. And whatever activity that you do online has got legal ramifications. So if you think that I'm posting something on social media and I'm safe and nothing is going to happen to me, then think again. There are legal ramifications. You could be sucked in civil litigation of seeking damages by way of compensation, of injunctions and declarations. You could also face criminal charges. And today, increasingly, people are not even thinking twice before going ahead and suing unknown persons on social media who've gone ahead and tarnished the reputation of the complainant or the plaintiff. And mind you, a new phenomenon has come across the world. I call it the John Doe phenomenon in information technology, where typically a new trend has emerged where you sue not a known person but an unknown person, and you sue them through the service provider. The purpose is that the service provider will give you the real identity of this unknown culprit who would have done some activity on social media, and then once the name is given by the social media company, you get the real person in your net, and then you sue him for damages, for compensation, for injunction, for criminal charges. And lo and behold, whatever the expectation that you had that you were anonymous instantaneously evaporates, because courts are not even thinking twice before going and piercing the so-called anonymity veil on the social media for the purposes of actually identifying the real actor who's gone and done the illegal content that's available on social media. That's one big area that one is beginning to see. Another area that I'm beginning to see is that social media, because it's so valuable and it's so significant, is now increasingly becoming the attention target for state actors. States are saying, well, social media, you're getting out of control. I need to control you. Here comes the fundamental question. Can social media be controlled? And if not, what to do? If yes, what to do? Countries believe that, look, once social media is going to get out of hand, it'll get more and more difficult for countries and the governments to govern. So consequently, a trend is emerging across the world where countries have begun to start coming up with laws, regulations, rules, which are targeted at trying to regulate in direct or indirect manner the social media. Let me take you to China. China has now come up with new rules which have a direct impact upon regulation of social media on China. Further, they've got this huge, great Chinese wall, which allows them to go ahead and ensure that a lot of content which is outside China is not physically shown within China. In addition, we have now begun to start seeing the emergence of fake news legislation as a means for silencing or controlling social media. Yes, there's no denying the fact that social media is infested with fake news. We are all components of this fake news ecosystem. And if we are not careful, if we don't apply our mind, we often become passive transmitters of fake news. So consequently, in order to deal with fake news, more and more countries have begun to start coming up with dedicated laws on fake news. So whether it's Malaysia, whether it's Singapore, whether it's France, they've all come up with dedicated laws on fake news. But now the new important trend that's coming across is that countries are increasingly using these fake news legislations as a means of trying to control some kinds of speech or to potentially target some hyperactive elements on social media, thereby trying to give a quiet but signaling a deterrent kind of message to other stakeholders on social media. I think that's one issue that we need to keep in our minds. Also, other countries have started using their cyber security laws for the purposes of trying to control social media. Yes, there's no denying the fact that social media becomes often the starting point of a cyber security breach, or often a cyber security breach gets rooted through social media. So a lot of countries, including China, Vietnam, Singapore, Thailand, and Australia, are now increasingly trying to see how their cybersecurity legislations could potentially be used for the purposes of trying to control social media. And I think that's another very interesting twist, or interesting trend that one is beginning to see in the context of social media. On top of it, ultimately, it's all going to boil down to two important factors. Number one, social media service providers and platforms, and number two, users. Social media service providers are today laughing their way to the bank. Why? Because most of them are located in the US and they are governed by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act in the US, which effectively says that, look, if you are a service provider, the law only considers you as a pipe provider. Therefore, you are not going to be held responsible for what flows inside the pipe. That's one particular legal proposition that's been holding good for last more than 2 decades. But then I think the winds of change have now started coming in. President Trump suddenly realized that some of his tweets got to be deleted by Twitter, and consequently has passed an executive order on 28th of May 2020, asking the Department of Justice to come up with new legal frameworks so as to go ahead and deal specifically with the entire issue of intermediary liability. And at the time when we talk, the Department of Justice is in the process of now coming up with new legal frameworks for intermediary liability. In the Indian context, I quickly realized that Indian law is also now outdated. Section 79 of the Information Technology Act 2000 also tends to grant these intermediaries a statutory exemption from legal liability. However, I think the times have come where these service providers cannot be allowed to be mute spectators. Let me give you an example. Something nasty is written about you on social media. Try writing to the platform owner, asking them that particular content to be removed. You will either not get a response, or you will either not get an effective remedy to your problem till ultimately you go to court. And in a country like India, going to court and getting a court order becomes a hugely lengthy exercise, apart from being an expensive one too, which effectively renders the entire process as infructuous. So I believe that the entire issue of intermediary liability needs to have a fresh look. When the Christchurch...
Another 1 minute, please.
Thanks. The Christchurch attacks told us that the world is now waking up to a new perspective on intermediary liability. And finally, it has got to do with users. Users have to be made more available, more sensitized about the need for being cautious and for being careful. It's time to sensitize everybody that in today's ruthless world, where data is the new oil in the new data economy, our data is paramount. And we have to be ruthlessly selfish in trying to share our data. We should only need to know or share data of ours on a need-to-know basis. Not everybody in the world needs to know everything about us. Once we are starting getting more cautious, once we start adopting cybersecurity as a way of life, due diligence, cyber resilience, and caution as part of our daily approaches, I believe to a large extent, more and more people will be far more careful on what to write, what to leave behind, and what to publish on social media. At the end of the day, there's no denying the fact that social media is now here to stay. Its power will keep on increasing, both during COVID-19 and post-COVID-19. The onus is going to be upon us on how quickly and how efficaciously we can take appropriate steps so as to protect ourselves from becoming victims of either cyber crimes or any other cybersecurity breaches or other unwarranted acts done on social media. Hence, due diligence and caution has to be your only mantra as you go forward in the social media age. Remember that what you publish today is going to be there for the next 100 years or more. And your grandchildren are going to read or listen to what you are going to be publishing today. So publish with care, publish and transmit with caution, and ultimately just try as far as possible to not document your personal lives on the internet. The internet is a common platform for common good. Let it not be a place for sharing of personal, intimate moments, which could come and bite us in the coming times. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Singh, Mr. Ahluwalia.
Thank you very much, Pawan. Very illuminating talk. And I just have a quote from Albert Einstein. Several years ago, he had said, "I fear the day when technology will surpass human interaction and the world will have a generation of idiots." And from Mr. Manoj Bajaj's talk, one of the other things that I've gathered in my research is that it is said that 45% of the world's mobile users lift their phones 2,500 times a day. So it's surprising, and I have a couple of questions that the audience has sent to me. I just want you to sort of take a minute. I think we got another 10 minutes where we can take some question answers. The first question that I have is, can you regulate social media? Is it something that is required by the world today? And when and if rules get coined, will they be able to curb the use of social media for malpractice?
Thanks, sir. I believe social media cannot remain unregulated all the time. There will have to be some efforts made to try to regulate it. However, the regulation, I believe, has to be minimal, has to be enabling, and should not have a direct detriment or contravention upon the enjoyment of people's civil liberties and their freedoms of speech and expression. But ultimately, I believe people also have to understand that their freedom of speech and expression, which is often guaranteed by their constitution, does not give them a license to go ahead and defame anyone or to hit somebody below the belt. So I believe more and more countries are looking in that direction. So the strategy of how countries have gone forward is as follows. Number one, countries first like to come up with a national cyber social media strategies, which will then inform what the vision of the country has to be. And then quietly they start coming up with incremental pieces of legislation aimed at regulating some aspects of social media. The entire social media cannot be regulated, and it's even foolhardy to think in that particular direction. However, through national cyber laws in place, through dedicated cybercrime legislations in place, countries are increasingly pushing the envelope in the direction of making social media a more livable place. Today, social media is ruled by scoundrels, by trolls, and by all kinds of elements, both in terms of state actors and non-state actors who are doing all kinds of activities. So to the extent that social media gets used for positive, constructive activities, I think there's no quarrel to the basic propositions. But more and more states are increasingly now trying to come up with legal frameworks on how the unwarranted, the illegal, or the criminal activities that are increasingly being disseminated on social media could potentially be regulated. It's too early to even comment on how effective those strategies are going to be. At best, they will only have a limited response. But ultimately, if the governments can start going ahead and creating more capacity building and awareness amongst the social media users in terms of what all to share, what not to share, in terms of cyber hygiene and cyber resilience methodologies, that could go a long way in terms of empowering the users of social media so as to be on the right side of the law and so as to not become victims of unauthorized activities on social media. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. I have a question which actually I think is Manoj's area. This is, so Manoj, you are actually a powerhouse for generating business through social media. And most of the time you were talking about the nuances or the ills of social media rather than as to how you could use it for purposes of the economic growth that is required through social media. If you could take a minute or something to sort of tell the audience as to how you use social media for economic benefit.
Right, sure. Thank you. There are, as I mentioned, several platforms out there as far as social media is concerned. Let us talk about Facebook first. Now, there are some simple things that any business owner can do. As I mentioned, if we talk about an Indian context, there are about 340 million and 34 crore people online using Facebook in India. Now, if a business or a brand wants to connect with them, that is very, very easily possible. One can actually throw a simple Facebook page in a span of 10 minutes, and it is absolutely free to create. And then there are some advertising capabilities available. Some are really, really powerful advertising capabilities available on Facebook. Now, for example, if you want to target, there are easy ways, and you can set up a campaign in less than 10 to 15 minutes in which you can target certain age range, certain gender, certain location, as well as certain interests that you think would be useful if you want to target for generating business or leads. Now, I generally tell this strategy, I share this strategy, I call this strategy as 2K1W. Now, what do you do in this case? Now, since you are in business, assuming you are in business for some past number of years, you would have all the data of your past business owners that have done business with you. You would have data of the leads or of the prospects that you would have come across in the last so many years that you have been in business. When I say data, you can actually extract email addresses and mobile numbers from that data, and you can upload them on Facebook on a very specific form that Facebook provides. Now, this form is known as creating a custom audience form. So what you can do, you can upload this data. Now, there can be two files that can be created. One can be created out of the mobile numbers. The other file can be created out of the email addresses, and you can upload that data. Now, after you have uploaded this data, Facebook is going to process this data and tell you how many of these people has Facebook identified on Facebook. Now, let us say you have uploaded a data of about 4 or 5,000 mobile numbers. In about 10 minutes to half an hour, Facebook is, after you have uploaded, Facebook will tell you that 3,500, 4,300, 4,500 mobile numbers have been identified associated with certain accounts on Facebook. Now you can actually start your ad, create a campaign, which again is not going to take you more than 15 minutes to 30 minutes tops. And you can start targeting with laser sharp pinpoint accuracy these exact 4,800 people, 4,300 people, 3,500 people that have been recognized by Facebook. And your message, your business message, your communication would only and only be visible to only these 3,500, 3,300, 4,500 people that have been recognized. Now, this is something that is known as custom audience system. You have to create an ad, and creating an ad is also not expensive at all. Now, you can create an ad with an age of about 7 days, that means a week, and the maximum amount of money, or you can say the amount of money that you can spend is 2,000 rupees. Minimum amount of money that you can spend. You can start your campaign, not maximum, is 2,000 rupees. So practically, you can start advertising and generating leads for your business in 2,000 rupees in a span of 1 week. As far as LinkedIn is concerned, as far as YouTube is concerned, YouTube, you can create a channel, you can create a video and upload it. And then there are some really very, very simple promotional strategies available that you can use in order to promote these videos. And you can start promoting these videos is in as low as 100 rupees per day. Okay. Now, when you start promoting, that video can be displayed to certain sets of people who have certain interests. For example, let us say you are in a specific business selling a certain type of goods or services. Now, all you need to understand is what type of videos would your target audience like to see on YouTube. Make a list of maybe 5, 10, 15, 100, 200, 500 videos, and you can keep on extending that, which is not going to take much time, maybe half an hour max. Okay. Now you can start targeting those videos. So what will essentially happen that before, let us say I go and want to see a specific video, and some company, some business is targeting me. So when I click the video, and before I am able to watch this video, I would start seeing a video that has been posted by a company which is being targeted to me. And then I'll have the skip button, or I'll have to watch the entire video. So I'll have to watch the first 5 seconds of that video, and there will be a button that will come, skip ads, and companies can control, advertisers can control that. So practically, if you see, in about 100 rupees per day and spending about 15 minutes, 30 minutes tops, you can actually create ads and start targeting your target audience. Now, if your video content is properly targeted, you will immediately start getting calls, you will immediately start getting leads. And no matter whether you're a small business, and of course, money is again a huge leverage. If you have got tons of money to spend, if you are a large business, then of course, there are several other strategies that can be deployed. Then if we talk about LinkedIn, LinkedIn is an amazing platform, and you can actually build tons upon tons of connections and start generating business growth opportunities from LinkedIn. As I said, all of these platforms are multi-country platforms. Like more or less, these platforms are all available in more than 200 countries, and you can start targeting people who happen to fall into your target audience definition into those 200 countries and start generating business growth opportunity. It is extremely easy, extremely cost effective, and extremely doable, no matter whether you're a startup, whether you're a single freelancer, single person freelancer, or you're a huge corporation of 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 employees. So that was a brief understanding of how you can exploit social media to be able to generate your business.
Well, thank you, Manoj. Thank you very much. I got time for one last question, and I think it's getting directed to Pawan Dugal. They said that it was reported in the social media that, or in the press, that you recommended to the government of India to make a legislation on cyber security. If that were to come about, how would it impact the common person's use of social media?
Well, if at all a cybersecurity legislation was to come across, India could learn from the experiences of other countries. Most of that legislation should potentially only look at defining the rights, duties, and responsibilities of various stakeholders. It's also going to impact ultimate social media users, because if they are tomorrow found to not having followed the minimum requisite parameters of security, even on social media, they could be exposed. For example, if they send some message which has a malicious kind of a code, and the said malicious code causes damages worth billions of dollars to some entities. Now, those entities will not only be allowed to sue you, but also would be allowed to press criminal charges. So I think if a cybersecurity legislation comes across, it will ultimately aim at toning up the muscle and the health of the cybersecurity ecosystem in the country, including on social media. But for that, I think it has to be holistic. It has to define the responsibilities of the social media providers. Most of them are located in the US, and it also has to come up with specific due diligence mechanisms that users have to do it. Now, you do not expect users to stop doing everything and only looking at compliance. That's not the case. But I think if this kind of cybersecurity legislation comes across, there will be more accountability. There'll be more responsibility of social media service providers, who will then be pushed in the direction of putting in place and implementing more reasonable security practices and procedures, so that people's personal data, financial data, or professional data could potentially be made more secure. So ultimately, a cybersecurity legislation will aim at making the digital and mobile ecosystem more secure. I don't think it's going to have a humongous amount of consequences for users, but yes, it's going to make the ecosystem more secure. It's going to put in far more focus on compliances, and will push the bigger stakeholders to contribute both in terms of resources as well as in terms of capacity building to enhancing the cause of cybersecurity. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I think we run out of time, and I'd like to sort of thank all the panelists and the participants for being here with us today, and from 13 countries. I would now like to hand over back to Mr. Sipal Singh for his concluding remarks. And one question that I have, which the audience wants to hear from a police officer, and that is, what is your opinion on how social media was used in the recent media trial of Riya Chakravarti? You are muted. You need to unmute yourself, sir.
You asked this question to me.
It's one of the questions is, can we have a police officer answering this question?
No, it's all right. Let me first attend to this. A lot of things have been already told by the.
Just a minute to answer. We're running out of time.
I'll finish, because in this case, more sinned against than sinning. That is the one-word reply. Whatever Riya has done, whatever his consequences are going to be, I feel she has been more sinned against than sinning. Whatever she has committed or not committed, which is yet to be proved with CBI, this case, which started with Sushant's death, has taken a different direction. The death case is not being absolutely explored except for CBI on one side. They have come with Pamela, ED, that there are money laundering, and the ED, they have come to Narcotic Bureau. This has taken absolutely a sidetrack, and the lady has been booed, and certain things have been said about her, that she was having a Kala Jadoo, a magic singer, Sultan. All this denigration of the lady, I feel, is that the lady Riha, she has been more sinned against than her sinning. There's one word reply. Now, while thanking the two speakers, I like to say this is not a thought, it is not a PowerPoint, thought-packed session. Absolutely a thought-packed session, and I am very, very thankful to both the speakers for having addressed today. I think we may have to call Pawan again, this speaker somewhere in some other session, because one thing is very clear, that Right to Privacy Act is yet to come in. Although it is enshrined in the Constitution, Right to Privacy Act is yet not in vogue in this country. And under the IPC various offenses, we are not able to deal it. As you know, the enforcement agencies are not able to deal with that. In view of that, I am very sure that the advice which he is giving, or the act which is coming, or the cyber laws coming, they will also cover to a great extent the right of privacy of the individual. Thank you very much. I think it was a very, 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 very illuminating session, and very, very thought-packed, not power-packed, thought-packed session, and very, very eloquent speech from Dr. Duggar. Thank you, Dr. Duggar. Thank you, Mr. Manoj Bajaj. Thank you very much. We are indebted to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure.
Now, our next
Thank you, sir.
session,
It's a pleasure.
next webinar is on anatomy of online examination. This session is again going to be very, very important, because in view of the fact, the present prevailing situation in the country, it is becoming very difficult to have physical classrooms, physical examinations, and physical tests. Therefore, the anatomy of online examination is a subject which is interest most of the people, both students as well as the community, that is teachers community. And we are going to have a very illustrious speaker from, one is from the Amity University, Madhya Pradesh, other is a pioneer of tax code, which has started with this sort of online examination. We hope that the panelists here also, which are coming, will be very, very illustrative and give you a lot of inputs, practical inputs. The delegates will please note and the date so that they are able to register in time, because a lot of registration has to go, and the walking registration is so quick that we have to at time cut out from the Zoom and put them into YouTube. Therefore, I request the delegates to come first and try to get yourself registered for the next anatomy of online examination. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Pawan Ahluwalia, for arranging this session and these very, very illuminating, illustrious, erudite speaker, both of them. I mean, I feel that many years of service and many years of public exposure, very eloquent, very illustrative, and very clear-cut position has been given by both of you. Some of the words and definition given by Mr. Duggar, like vomiting, like this being a sort of stimulant, like opiate and all, I think they will form a dictionary of your words which you have coined for this thing. They will become the dictionary of cybercrime for the future generation to know. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Pawan. Thank you, Manoj. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. It's a pleasure.